think it's different because with most other classes, it's just, okay, a lesson this day, a lesson that day, but you never understand the connections between those lessons and why they're valuable. But with this style of learning, I'm able to understand and make connections a whole lot easier, and in the long run, it's helped me make connections to other classes that, don't
additional classrooms that you've been in.
I remember back in junior high, a lot of the ways that we'd be taught things in science class was basically reading a book. This passage is important, write it down, or memorize this, or know this. Not so much a lot of hands-on ever in junior high. Well, whereas in here, I don't think we ever really used a textbook. It was more like online, on our own, figure out, take steps to solve problems, work on it together. We either on either of the boards in here. So I really like that hands-on approach that we had.
It all comes back to connections, basically. So you're starting off with the smaller picture and then developing more small pictures, like a puzzle, basically. And if you just stood up in front of the class and said, okay, this is why animals live in groups, we wouldn't really understand exactly why or be engaged in the process. But the way you taught us, we were really engaged, and we were able to make those connections.
It seems, I don't think it's a weird kind of analogy, almost like if you've seen a hamster hits a button and he gets food. It's kind of like reward based. It's like you keep thinking and then you finally get something and then you get to move on instead of it just getting it all at once and then when it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
You had us answer the question, what do wolves eat? So as a class, we had this discussion. We were listing things like, oh, wolves eat moose, they eat sheep, they eat rabbits, all that stuff. And then you came into the question where, well, how much energy does it take up for the wolves to eat those things? And then we discussed that, eating a moose would take up a lot of energy, a sheep, a medium amount of energy, and then a rabbit, a small amount of energy. And the day after that, you had a model ready with what we had said, and it felt like we really built the model in a sense, and it was really engaging, and it felt a whole lot different than other classes because you don't really feel like you're a part of the lesson process.
Yeah, in this class, we you would give us a starting point, and then we'd have to do our own work and kind of think about it to build the answer to what we were looking for, as opposed to other science classes. It would be like, this is the answer, know this for the test, or know this in general for the next unit, instead of, why do I know this, why is it this way? With this class, you actually know it's this because of this reason.
So again, it all comes back to connections, because in a sense, you're excited to see what the next piece of the puzzle is. Well, it's like, oh, today we figured out that wolves eat this and this and this, and it takes up X amount of energy. And you're like, oh, okay, I wonder how this is going to play out in the next lesson. And again, that's the whole concept of being engaged in the lesson. So you're excited to actually come back and see what will happen.
Not that we knew, but just before we even started with the model or knew about it, we kind of laid out what we thought we would have to do as a wolf, like what would affect us or what we would have to do if we were in the wild. And then with the models, we knew everything that we said already laid it out, but we didn't know that beforehand. So it's kind of like we figure it out on our own, and then we get the model, and we're like, this is already what we said. It's cool.